I couldn't believe my eyes. There was Simone, my wife of 5 years, sitting topless on a guy's lap in the hot tub below. From their expressions, it was obvious they were engaging in something intimate. What on earth? Furious, I grabbed my phone and recorded a brief video. I considered putting on my swim trunks, but decided against it. Instead, I sat down in the room and reflected on the situation. No wonder she didn't want me to join her at this party. She had been working as a secretary at Snang Funds, a hedge fund firm, for about a year, and she seemed genuinely happy. Now I understood why. Earlier that week, I'd seen a message pop up on her phone mentioning the company Christmas party that weekend with an option to bring a guest. When I brought it up, she tried to convince me not to go. "Oh, Carl, you'll just be bored," she said. I was puzzled. "Why don't you want me to go? Are you embarrassed to be seen with me?" "Of course not, silly," she laughed. "It's just that these are financial experts and the conversation will likely be all about money and stuff. You'll be bored stiff." Her company often held parties like this, usually once a month, and they were typically staff only. Simone would come home late, or sometimes not until the next day. I never questioned it before, but now I had a clearer picture of what really went on at these gatherings. "Well," I said, "I still might want to spend the evening with you." "Fine, but if you're coming, you better get your tux cleaned. Trust me, though, you probably won't have much fun." The day of the party, she suggested I bring swim trunks. Swim trunks? For a Christmas party? It's December, for crying out loud. She explained, "We usually head to my boss's penthouse after the party. He has a great hot tub." "Ah, so this is a regular thing." "Yeah, pretty much every time. Just promise me you'll behave tonight, okay?" "I always do," I told her, but something about this didn't sit right. "Why are you saying that?" "Oh, the parties can get a little wild, and I don't want you getting upset about anything you might see. Some of the guys can be very friendly, if you catch my drift." "As long as everything passes the husband test, there shouldn't be an issue, right?" I asked. She just smiled and kissed me on the cheek. At the main party, Simone introduced me to a woman named Linda. "This is my husband, Carl," she said. Linda gave me a long look and grinned. "Your husband? Oh, this is going to be fun. You're quite the wild one, aren't you?" Simone giggled and said, "I need to mingle, sweetie. Could you grab me some wine?" And just like that, she left with Linda, not even glancing back at me. I went to the bar, got her wine, and grabbed a beer for myself. After walking around for a bit, I couldn't find Simone anywhere. I wandered aimlessly, hoping she'd come to find me. Eventually, I sat down at an empty table and watched everyone dance and have fun. No one spoke to me or even acknowledged I was there. I had to admit, she was right, I wasn't having fun at all. I grew more irritated as the night went on, frustrated that my wife had ditched me. After nursing my beer for a couple of hours, I decided enough was enough. I got up to leave, figuring if Simone wasn't going to spend any time with me, I might as well head home and leave her with her friends. As I approached the exit, Simone and Linda appeared, accompanied by 3 men, one with his arm around Simone's waist. She didn't bother introducing them. "There you are," she exclaimed. It was clear she had been drinking. "We were looking for you," she added, though I didn't believe her. When she kissed me, I could taste tequila on her lips, along with something else. "Yeah, well, I was just about to head home since you disappeared on me for 2 hours. Where were you?" Simone blushed, while the men smirked. I had the urge to punch them. "Oh, we were just doing a few shots," Linda chimed in. Simone shot her a look, and I wondered what was really going on. "Shots of what?" "I taste tequila, but there's something else," I pressed. Simone dismissed it. "Nothing," she said quickly. "Hey, we're heading to Ben's place. He's got the hot tub ready. You coming?" "Am I actually going to spend time with you, or will you leave me behind again?" She laughed. "Don't be silly. You'll see me later." "I'll go with Linda and the guys if that's fine with you." "Why not ride with me?" I asked. One of the guys grabbed her hand and pulled her away. "You can follow us, dude," he said, his tone making me even angrier. Simone and Linda followed them, laughing as they walked off. I got into my car and drove after them. When we arrived, I noticed Simone had already changed into her bikini. What the hell was going on? By the time I got there, she was already in the hot tub with 2 guys, who I later found out were Ben and Dale, the senior partners at the firm. They both seemed like rich frat boys to me. As I stood there, Linda approached. "So, do you think maybe we can hook up later tonight?" she asked. "What makes you think I'd be interested? I'm married." "Oh, I thought you two had an open relationship or something." "What made you think that I questioned?" "Well, the way Simone acts with other men. I figured you were okay with it, especially with how she kissed you earlier." "What are you talking about? What do you mean by the way she kissed me?" "Well, she had just finished with Ben and Dale, and she still had their stuff in her mouth when she kissed you. Did you enjoy that?" I felt sick to my stomach. Her expression shifted when she saw my reaction. "Oh my God, you didn't know, did you?" "No, how long has this been going on?" "Ever since she started working at the company," Linda confessed. My heart sank. "That's been over a year now. All this time, and I had no idea." Was this what she'd been doing at these parties? Getting intimate with these two guys and others too? I'm sorry, Linda said. I just assumed you knew. She really does love you, you know. Yeah, I'm really feeling the love, I said bitterly. Why don't you go upstairs and change? Maybe since you're here, she'll behave herself tonight. Yeah, right, I muttered. I headed upstairs, and that's when I saw her with the two guys again, being intimate. As much as I cared for her, I couldn't tolerate this any longer. I decided to confront her and went back downstairs. Oh, there you are, Simone said when I reached the bottom of the stairs. Why aren't you in your swim trunks? Aren't you coming into the hot tub with us? I grabbed her arm and pulled her into what looked like a study, closing the door behind us. What's wrong, Carl, she asked. What's wrong? Were you ever going to tell me we had an open marriage? What? What are you talking about? That's what Linda told me. I pulled out my phone and showed her the video of her being intimate with the two guys in the hot tub. Care to explain this? Did you just plan to humiliate me even more after leaving me alone at the party? Oh, come on, Carl, we were just having a little fun. It doesn't mean I love you any less. And yeah, I was intimate with them, but it doesn't mean anything. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was openly admitting it and acting like it didn't matter. But to me, it meant everything. Without a word, I took off my wedding ring and placed it in her hand. Then I grabbed her left hand and removed her rings too. Carl, what are you doing? She asked, her voice shaky. You're disgusting. And right now, I can't stand the sight of you. Merry Christmas. I hope it was worth it. Don't bother coming home. I'll be contacting a lawyer about a divorce on Monday. You can't mean that, she cried. I love you. I don't want a divorce. I don't care what you want anymore. I know the truth now. I know why you didn't want me to come with you. I won't be your fool anymore, Simone. I turned to leave. One of the guys, I'm not sure which one, called after me. Hey bro, you leaving already? You've got one hot wife. Glad you think so, I replied. She's all yours now. I walked out of the penthouse, went downstairs to my car, and drove home. Simone began calling and texting me after I left, but I ignored every attempt. When I got home, I deleted all her messages and blocked her number. Then I changed out of my tux, grabbed some trash bags, and started packing up her clothes and belongings. I tossed everything into her car, pulled it out of the garage, and removed the garage opener. I also changed the garage code so she couldn't get back in. By the time I was done, it was around 2:30 a.m., and I was exhausted. I collapsed onto the bed and immediately fell asleep. The next morning, I woke to the sound of the house phone ringing. I picked it up without thinking. Yeah, I answered groggily. Carl, it's me, Simone said. Please come get me. Screw you. You're not my problem anymore. Carl, please. We need to talk, she pleaded. No, we don't. If you've got something to say, you can say it through my lawyer. You can come get your car too. I've already packed all your stuff in it. Before she could respond, I hung up. She called back immediately, but I unplugged the phone. I had no desire to hear her voice or see her again. I fell back onto the bed and slept until the afternoon. When I finally woke up, I noticed her car was gone. Good, maybe she finally got the message. I spent the rest of the day looking online for divorce lawyers and researching the divorce laws in our state. Luckily, we lived in a community property state, but since we didn't own any property together, that wouldn't be an issue. We had no kids, so there wouldn't be any child support. Simone made about the same, if not a bit more than me, so I doubted there'd be alimony. I also discovered that while most divorces here were no fault, there was an option to file on the grounds of adultery, cruelty, or abuse. It would make the divorce more expensive and drawn out, but I didn't care about that. I jotted down the number for a lawyer named Jenny Hawkins and planned to call her on Monday. As I was making notes, my cell phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered it anyway, thinking it could be anyone. Carl, said a female voice. That's me, I replied. It's Linda. I just wanted to let you know Simone is staying with me for a few days. Are you really going through with the divorce? Yes, I said firmly. Carl, she's a wreck. She's in her room, crying non-stop. I'm worried she's going to have a breakdown. Linda asked, don't you have any feelings for her at all? Sure, right now those feelings are hatred and disgust. She's been cheating on me for over a year, and she had the nerve to humiliate me in public. We're done, I replied. But she loves you, Linda said. That's what she claims. Tell me, what did she do after I left? How long did you all stay at the penthouse? Did she hang out with Ben and Dale again? She was upset, Linda replied. We all were. You're not answering my questions, I said. Okay, yes, we all got together after you left. You left, but it was just to comfort Simone. You could have had fun too, if you'd stayed, she added. Incredible. Where do people like you even come from? I asked, completely shocked. I've got to go, Linda, goodbye. I hung up, and that's when I noticed 2 text messages from unfamiliar numbers. They were sent early this morning after I'd gone to sleep. I opened them. Both had videos attached. One message read, "You missed one hell of a party, bro. I watched the video and saw Simone being intimate with 3 men at the penthouse. I recognized Ben and Dale, but not the third guy. Linda was there too, completely naked." The stranger looked into the camera and said with a smug grin, "That's some wife you've got there, bro. Too bad you weren't here. You could have had a blast." They all laughed, including Simone. So much for loving me, I thought. The second video was similar, but ended with Ben wiping himself on my wedding ring as Simone held it out in her hand, smirking before licking it off. My anger toward her only grew. I transferred the videos to my computer and made a copy for my lawyer. I thought about sending them to her friends and family, but decided not to, at least for now. The advice I got from Jenny's website warned me to be very cautious in how I responded to Simone's actions. Any impulsive reaction could ruin my case. I chose to hold off for the moment. I didn't hear from Simone or Linda that day or the next, which was a relief. I spent the weekend removing all traces of Simone from the apartment. On Monday, I called my boss to explain the situation and took a few days off. I knew I wouldn't be able to focus, and my boss understood, having gone through a similar situation when his wife cheated on him. He was sympathetic. Next, I contacted Jenny's office and scheduled an appointment for that afternoon. On my way to her office, I stopped by the bank. I made sure to separate our finances, paying off and cancelling the joint credit card, withdrawing half of our shared funds, and opening a new account in my name only. When I met with Jenny, she explained the divorce laws in our state and asked if I wanted to pursue an alienation of affection lawsuit against her bosses. She said it might not go far, but I had enough evidence to give it a shot. I told her to go ahead. "Where should they be served?" she asked. "At their office," I said. "I want them to feel some of the same public embarrassment they've caused me." She nodded and made a note. After paying the retainer, I headed home. On the way, Linda called. "Hello," I answered. "Carl, would you be willing to meet with Simone and me this afternoon?" she asked. "Not really. I just spoke to my lawyer, and she advised me to stay away from Simone. If she has something to say, she can go through my attorney. Do you want her contact info?" "Hold on," Linda said. I could hear her speaking to someone, but the voices were muffled. A moment later, she came back on the line. "I guess that'll have to do," she said softly. After I gave her Jenny's contact details, she made one last attempt to advocate for Simone. "She really does love you, Carl. She's ready to make it up to you. Can't you forgive her? She has a strange way of showing love. How exactly does she plan to make this right? Can she undo what she did? Can she turn back time? No, I'll never forgive her." "Okay, if that's how you feel, I'll let her know. But you'll have to talk to her at some point." "Not if I can avoid it. What's done is done. Tell her to expect the divorce papers soon." I ended the call and drove home, stopping only to buy a 12-pack of beer and a couple of packs of cigarettes. I'd quit smoking when we got married, but I needed something to stop myself from smashing holes in the walls. Not long after I got home, the phone rang. I picked it up. "Hello," I said. "Mr. Jacobs, this is Ben Carlson, your wife's employer." I recognized the voice from the party, though he sounded more professional now that he was at work. "I know who you are. Ben, what do you want?" "Look, I know you're upset about what happened on Friday, but we all thought you were fine with your wife's behavior at the company events," he explained. "So, you knew she was married this whole time?" I asked. "Yes, but she told us you two had an open marriage and that you were okay with everything she was doing." "And you never thought to ask me about it?" I asked, thinking there was no need to, but he replied, "And what about the videos you guys sent me on Friday night? What was that about? Those videos were her idea. Look, I'm really sorry about all of this. Is there anything I can do to make it up to you? Yeah, you can let me kick you so hard you'll feel it next week, right after you testify against her in court. Oh, and by the way, I'm suing you for alienation of affection. If you really want to make it up to me, you'll agree to my terms without any argument, anything else." "Are you seriously suing us?" he asked. "Yes, especially since you've been violating your own moral code for the past year while destroying my marriage. Come on, man, this was all just fun. We didn't intend to wreck your marriage. What did you think would happen? Did you honestly believe I'd just stand by and applaud while you used my wife like a toy? Sounds like you've been reading too many online stories. We can work this out. A lawsuit like that could ruin us, not my problem. You shouldn't have turned my wife into your plaything." I slammed the phone down, grabbed a beer, and stepped onto the balcony for a smoke. I didn't hear anything from them until Wednesday when they were served papers at Simone's office. "I can't believe you actually did it," Linda said. "You didn't even give her a chance to explain. Do you know how humiliated she is right now?" "I don't care. She didn't mind humiliating me with her cheating, so I couldn't care less," I replied, ending the call by slamming the phone down again. It felt great. A few minutes later, another call came in from Ben's office. "What?" I barked. "You coward," he hissed. "I'm going to get you. How dare you sue me? Simone wanted to be with all of us, you idiot. Maybe you should have treated her better." "Go ahead, jerk," I said. "How dare you mess with my life? Now I'm going to ruin yours." I slammed the phone down again and called Jenny to inform her of Ben's threat. "Good," she said. I'll file for a temporary restraining order against Simone and her friends today. I'll make sure you get a copy of it. And remember, don't do anything stupid. What if he comes after me? I asked. Make sure you have witnesses and don't start anything, she advised. I understood her point. Later that day, a courier delivered my copy of the TRO. To cover all my bases, I installed a small motion-activated camera in the front room and kept a Louisville Slugger near the door, just in case. If Ben or his friends tried anything, I wanted evidence and some protection. Thankfully, the rest of the week passed quietly without any contact from Linda, Simone, or their group. Until Saturday night. I was relaxing on the balcony with a beer and cigarette when the doorbell rang, followed by loud banging on the door. I stubbed out my cigarette, went inside, and peeked through the door's peephole. Sure enough, it was Ben. And I could see someone else with him. The pounding continued. Open up, Jacobs. I know you're in there. Open up so I can kick your ass. You're violating a restraining order. I'm calling the cops right now. Ben, I said, as I dialed 911. You wouldn't dare. Open the door. Damn it, he shouted. Take your punishment like a man, you wimp. When the 911 operator answered, I explained the situation at my door. We've already received a couple of calls about that area and have dispatched officers. Don't open the door until they arrive. Thank you, I replied before hanging up. The banging on the door persisted, and I wondered if Ben was going to break it down. I tightened my grip on the bat and waited. Open this damn door before I break it down, he yelled, pounding even harder. I heard a commotion outside and looked through the peephole again, just in time to see two large police officers handcuffing Ben and his companion. One officer knocked on the door. Police, he announced. I opened it to see Ben being led away in cuffs. He looked back at me. I'm not done with you, you wimp. I'll be back to finish this. The officer turned to me. Do you know this man? He asked. I nodded and handed him my TRO. He scanned it and spoke into his radio before addressing me again. We'll take them downtown. They'll be spending the night with us. Can you explain what's going on? I detailed the events, and he took notes. Thanks for your cooperation. I don't think he'll be bothering you again for a while. I locked the door and went back to the balcony with a fresh beer. The next day, the news of Ben's arrest hit the papers. Hedge fund CEO arrested. The article was brief, but I had a feeling this was just the beginning of his downfall. In the following days, more stories surfaced, revealing that several of his firm's clients were pulling their business, unwilling to trust a company involved in such personal scandals. This was having a financial impact on the company, and I thought, good. The next Monday, I returned to work. It wasn't easy, but I managed to get through the day. About 3 weeks later, I received a call from Jenny. Good morning, Carl. How are you holding up? About as well as can be expected. Any updates on Simone? Yes, she's gotten a lawyer, and they've requested court-ordered marriage counseling. The judge agreed and scheduled 6 sessions starting this week. They can do that? I asked. Yes, and it's in your best interest to attend. If you don't, the judge could hold you in contempt and possibly send you to jail. There's no way I'm reconciling with her, I told her. I understand, but you still need to show up. If the counselor sees no chance of reconciliation, she'll inform the judge. Anything else? Yes, Simone's attorney says she's pregnant. If that's true, the court won't proceed until paternity is determined, so I have to wait 8 or 9 months, I asked. For now, yes. If it's your child, you'll be required to pay child support. But on the bright side, the judge approved a legal separation until the baby is born. Great, I muttered. Jenny gave me the counselor's address and wished me luck. I wrote down the information and marked it on my calendar. I was determined to make it clear that reconciliation was out of the question. When I arrived at the counselor's office, I was shown in immediately. A slightly older woman peered at me over her glasses. Simone was already seated on a love seat, looking dejected. I had a bad feeling about the whole thing. The counselor introduced herself as Dr. Abigail Farnsworth and gestured for me to sit next to Simone on the love seat. Instead, I chose a smaller wooden chair positioned at an angle to them. Glad you could make it, Mr. Jacobs, she said. I understand I didn't have much of a choice, I replied, folding my arms. I'm glad to see you here, she said, turning to Simone. Miss Jacobs, what do you hope to gain from these sessions? Simone responded, I want to reconcile with my husband. We're having a baby, and I want us to be a family again. I let out a mocking laugh as she said this, which made Abigail glance in my direction. And what about you, Mr. Jacobs? What do you want from these sessions? She asked. What I want is for you to understand that there is absolutely no chance of reconciliation, I replied, nodding towards Simone. I noticed her flinch as I did. Abigail then asked, not even for the sake of the baby? I don't believe the child is mine. If it turns out it is, I'll pay child support and do my best to be a father. But there's no way I'm getting back together with her. End of discussion. Not even for the child's sake, she repeated. I pulled out my phone and showed her the videos I had been sent. As she watched, it was obvious she was disgusted. Once the videos ended, I slipped my phone back into my pocket. You're married, doctor. If it were your husband in those videos instead of her, would you want to reconcile? And if you found out he'd been doing that for over a year, even in front of you, would you still consider reconciling? This isn't about me, it's about you too. And now there's a child to consider, she said. No, doctor. She has a child to think about. I don't believe it's mine, and I'd bet on that. But I do want some answers from her. Abigail paused, nodded thoughtfully, then turned to Simone. I think he deserves some answers, don't you? She asked. Simone looked down, her face reddening with shame, and finally, after a moment, she muttered, I guess so. Abigail gestured to me. Go ahead, she said. I turned to Simone. The night of the party, you knew what was going to happen, didn't you? I asked. Simone nodded. Yes, she answered. And that's why you didn't want me to come with you, isn't it? I continued. Yes, she admitted. I tried to tell you it wouldn't be fun for you. And you were right. It was the worst night of my life. When you kissed me at the party, you intentionally made sure you had their fluids in your mouth, didn't you? I asked, my voice hard. Her face flushed deeply. Yes, she said. Why? What did I do to deserve that kind of humiliation? I demanded. You didn't do anything. We just thought it would be wild and exciting, she said. So you all planned to embarrass me, didn't you? I pressed. Yes, she admitted. And you intended to humiliate me even more at Ben's house, right? I asked. Yes, she whispered. How long have you been with those guys? I asked, my voice rising. Since I started working at Sneng, she replied quietly. Why? I asked, almost shouting. She shrugged. Because I enjoyed it. It was thrilling, and they made me feel good. How many times did you kiss me, or come near me with their fluids still in your mouth? I asked, feeling sick to my stomach. I don't know, a few times, she admitted. I fought the urge to vomit. How many men have you slept with since you started there? Not counting me, I asked coldly. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 dozen, she said, almost casually. 4 or 5 dozen, I repeated, shocked. So, you've been with 48 to 60 men in the last year? Are you insane? Have you never heard of STDs? Were you trying to kill me with something? Do you even know who the father of this baby is? I'm not 100% sure, she confessed. But you expect me to raise and support this child, don't you? You really are something, I said, shaking my head. But I love you, she said softly. Well, I don't love you, I replied, my anger boiling over. In fact, I hate you right now and I hope you rot. Both Abigail and Simone looked stunned. Simone looked like she was about to cry, but I didn't care. I wanted to hurt her more. I started to say something else, but Abigail cut me off. That's enough, Mr. Jacobs. You've made your point. It's clear you're ready to throw away 5 years of marriage. I didn't throw anything away. She did the moment she slept with someone else. And it wasn't 5 good years, maybe 4. The last year she wasn't my wife, she was just a dumping ground for any man who came along. You heard her, she slept with 48 to 60 men this year. She doesn't even know who the father of her child is. No, I will never reconcile with her. Okay, I think we've covered enough for today, Abigail said. I'd like to have individual sessions with both of you before we proceed. We scheduled the next session for the following week and left. As I reached the parking lot, I heard Simone calling after me, but I ignored her and got into my car. I saw her crying over her steering wheel as I drove away. Good, I thought. Let her feel some pain for once. That night, I received a furious call from Linda. I hope you're happy, she yelled. What are you talking about? I asked. Simone is in the hospital. She had a miscarriage. She told me everything you said and how you treated her. So what do you expect from me? Sympathy. I just told the truth, which is more than she's done all year, I said. Didn't you hear me? Your wife is in the hospital. Don't you care? Frankly, no, I don't, I replied coldly. My God, you really are heartless, she said quietly. You only have yourselves to blame for that, I said. The least I can do is go down there and give them my insurance info. Legally, she's still my wife and I'll get the bills anyway. After calming down a bit, I remembered what Jenny had told me. All right, what room is she in? Linda gave me the room number, and I headed to the hospital. When I arrived, I checked in with the nurse and provided my insurance details. I briefly spoke with the doctor. Any idea what caused this? I asked. The doctor shook his head. It's hard to say. There are many things that can go wrong in a pregnancy. How far along was she? I asked. Maybe 9 or 10 weeks, he replied. That meant it was possible the baby could have been mine, but I would never know for sure, not that it mattered. To me, the miscarriage just meant the divorce could move forward. How's she doing? I asked. She'll be fine. We'll keep an eye on her for a while, but she should be able to go home in a few hours, he said. Thanks, I replied before stepping into her room. She looked terrible lying there in the bed, her eyes filled with tears as she gazed at me. Linda stood at the foot of her bed and sneered. Are you happy now? I growled. Shut up, which caused Linda to flinch and then leave the room. I turned back to Simone. I guess this is really the end for us, isn't it? She asked softly. I nodded. Yeah, it is, I said. Do you truly hate me as much as you said earlier? She asked again. Right now, no. But there's no way I'm taking you back. You've shown me I could never trust you. Every time you went to the store, I'd be left wondering if you were getting involved with the clerks. On top of that, I can't get over your complete disrespect. I treated you like a queen all those years. What did I do to make you turn on me like this? I asked. It wasn't you, she replied. You were the best husband anyone could ask for. Those guys just brought out the worst in me. They convinced me that every man wants to see his wife with other men. I guess I just fell for their nonsense. I saw other women doing it and thought, why not join in? It was all just for fun. Yeah, it's all fun and games until the spouse finds out, I said, pausing before continuing. Look, the divorce is happening no matter what you do. You're just wasting time and money by dragging this out. Accept it and move on. We're done. I'm never coming back. Simone quietly responded. Okay, I understand. Tears started streaming down her cheeks. I'll tell my lawyer tomorrow, she added. And don't bother asking if we can stay friends, I said. I don't see that happening. Tears continued to fall as she said softly, I'm really sorry. I stared at her for a moment before replying, yeah, and as I turned to leave the room, I added, goodbye, Simone. I could hear her sobbing as I walked away. Too bad, I thought. Good riddance. A few days later, Jenny called me. As promised, Simone had dropped all her objections to the divorce. Abigail had written a report stating reconciliation was impossible and had even suggested I undergo anger management. The judge agreed, but stopped short of making it mandatory. Jenny managed to secure settlements from SNG's funds as well as from Ben and Dale. About a month later, she handed me the largest check I'd ever seen. That's after my cut, of course, she said with a smile. Of course, I responded. I deposited the money and moved on with my life as best I could. Snang, or as I like to call it, Sodom and Gomorrah, closed its doors about 6 months later. Apparently, their clients didn't trust the company with their finances anymore. Gee, I wonder why, I thought sarcastically. I never saw Ben or Dale again after that day at the apartment. They both served 30 days in jail for their stunt and evidently wanted to avoid any more trouble. Their reputations in the community were ruined, and they left town for better opportunities on the West Coast. Simone and Linda stayed in their apartment and ended up working at a strip mall in a store that specialized in women's clothing and cosmetics. I saw them occasionally but never acknowledged their presence. I remained single for a few years, going on the occasional date, until I met Claire Hansen, a recent divorcee. We dated for a few months, taking things slow. Like me, she had been betrayed by a cheating spouse and was still healing from it. I understood her pain and did my best to support her. For the first few weeks, all we did was talk or go out for dinner and a movie. Claire was more fragile than I was, so we spent a lot of time walking through the park and holding hands. I was very attracted to her, but I let her take the lead. One night, after a delicious lasagna dinner at her condo, she studied me carefully before asking, "Do you find me attractive?" I smiled at her and replied, "I think you're incredibly attractive in more ways than one." "Why do you ask?" "I was just wondering. You've never made a move on me, and I was starting to think you didn't like women," she said, half jokingly. "Oh, I like women just fine," I assured her. "It's just that once you've been burned, you tend to be cautious." "I get that. But not all women are like your ex-wife," she said gently. "True," I nodded. "And not all men are like your ex-husband. I still believe in the sanctity of marriage." She smiled warmly. "I know you do. And I want you to know that I feel the same way." "I'm glad to hear that," I said. So she teased, "What are you going to do with this little piece of information? Do you think you could do more than just give me a kiss on the cheek?" I grinned. "Where would you like me to kiss you?" I asked playfully. She slowly lifted her dress above her waist and gave me a seductive smile. I smiled back and got down between her legs. Things were definitely looking up, I thought to myself. And so we've come to the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did the ending take you by surprise? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going. If you found this story captivating, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're new here or haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring fresh, exciting stories every day, so click the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.